The trading station orbited a dead star, its metal corridors filled with beings from 100 different worlds. Marcus Chen walked through those corridors every day, his toolbox heavy on his shoulder, his coveralls stained with grease and coolant from machines he had fixed throughout the station. He was 32 years old, the only human engineer on Nexus Station 7. The other species called humans newcomers because humanity had only discovered faster-than-light travel 40 years ago. Most aliens looked at humans with curiosity, some with amusement, and a few with contempt. After all, what could these primitive beings from a small blue planet possibly offer to civilizations that had traveled the stars for thousands of years? Marcus did not care what they thought. He had a job to do, and he did it well. His specialty was fixing things that other engineers had given up on. Broken climate systems, failing power cores, malfunctioning gravity generators. If something was declared unfixable, someone eventually called Marcus. Today, his communication device buzzed with an urgent message from Station Administrator Vexillar, a tall insectoid being with 4 arms and compound eyes that seemed to see everything at once. "Human Engineer Marcus," the message said. "Report to Storage Bay 47 immediately. Highest priority." Marcus raised an eyebrow. Storage Bay 47 was in the restricted section of the station, a place he had never been allowed to enter. He gathered his tools and made his way through the crowded corridors, past merchants selling exotic goods, past travelers waiting for their ships, past security guards who watched everything with careful eyes. The restricted section required 3 separate identity scans before the doors would open. Marcus stepped through into a corridor that was quieter, cleaner, and much more serious than the rest of the station. Armed guards stood at every intersection, their weapons ready. Administrator Vexillar waited for him outside Storage Bay 47. The insectoid's antennae twitched nervously, and Marcus could see that something had the administrator deeply worried. "Thank you for coming quickly," Vexillar said. "We have a situation that requires your particular skills." "What kind of situation?" Marcus asked. Vexillar made a clicking sound that Marcus had learned was the equivalent of a sigh. "It would be easier to show you." The doors to Storage Bay 47 slid open, and Marcus stopped breathing for a moment. Standing in the center of the enormous bay was a machine unlike anything he had ever seen. It stood 12 meters tall, roughly humanoid in shape, but clearly built for war. Its armor was a dark metal that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Its surface was covered with weapon systems, sensor arrays, and technology that Marcus could not even begin to identify. But what struck him most was the damage. The machine had been torn apart by some terrible battle. One arm was missing entirely, its chest plate was cracked open, and half its head had been melted away by some kind of energy weapon. Around the machine stood a group of aliens, all of them clearly scientists or engineers, based on their equipment and the worried expressions on their faces. Marcus recognized several species. There were Valanthi, the tall blue-skinned beings known for their advanced technology. There were Kroth, the stone-like creatures who built the strongest ships in the galaxy. There were even a pair of Luminari, beings made of pure energy who rarely interacted with physical species. All of them looked exhausted and frustrated. "This," Vexillar said quietly, "is a Sentinel." Marcus felt his mouth go dry. He had heard stories about Sentinels. Every species in the galaxy had heard those stories. The Sentinels were ancient war machines, built by a civilization that had disappeared millions of years ago. They were considered the most advanced technology ever created. A single Sentinel could destroy an entire fleet. They were autonomous, intelligent, and nearly indestructible. They were also extremely rare. Only a handful had ever been found, and none of them had ever been successfully activated. "Where did you find it?" Marcus asked. "A mining ship discovered it floating in the debris field near Sector 7, Vexillar explained. They brought it here 3 months ago. Since then, the finest engineers from 12 different civilizations have been trying to repair it and activate it. And Marcus looked at the damaged machine. Complete failure, Vexlar admitted. The technology is so advanced that we cannot understand it. Every attempt to repair it has failed. Every diagnostic we run gives us results we cannot interpret. We have tried everything our combined civilizations know about engineering, and we have made no progress at all. Marcus looked at the team of alien engineers. They were staring at him with expressions ranging from curiosity to open hostility. He understood immediately. They did not want him here. They had been forced to call him because someone had ordered it, probably someone above Vexlar. "Why me?" Marcus asked. "I fix broken climate systems and power cores. This is way beyond anything I have ever worked on." Vexlar's antennae twitched again. "There is a theory," the administrator said carefully. "Some researchers believe that human engineers have a different approach to problem-solving than other species. You see machines differently. You understand systems in ways that are not purely logical." "You mean we are good at guessing?" Marcus said with a slight smile. "I would use the word intuition," Vexlar replied. "But yes, you are our last option before we declare this project a failure." Marcus walked closer to the massive machine. Up close, he could see more details of the damage. The technology was incredible. Even broken and damaged, the Sentinel was clearly something far beyond current galactic engineering. But as he looked at it, really looked at it, something strange happened. He began to see patterns, not in the technology itself, but in the damage, the way the armor had been torn, the way the internal systems had been exposed, the way certain parts had been destroyed while others remained intact. It was like looking at a puzzle where most of the pieces were missing, but the shapes of the remaining pieces gave hints about what the whole picture looked like. Marcus set down his toolbox and began to walk around the Sentinel, studying it from every angle. The alien engineers watched him silently, some with skepticism, others with faint hope. "Tell me about your repair attempts," Marcus said without looking at them. One of the Volanthi engineers stepped forward. Her name was Dr. Saren, and she was clearly the leader of the technical team. "We attempted to restore power to the core systems first. Standard engineering protocol. Repair the power, then repair everything else." "That did not work," Marcus said. It was not a question. "Correct. The power systems rejected every external energy source we provided. We believe they are designed to only accept power from a specific type of reactor that we cannot replicate." Marcus nodded slowly. "What else?" "We tried to repair the physical damage," a Croth engineer rumbled. His voice sounded like rocks grinding together. "We manufactured replacement components using the finest materials available. The Sentinel rejected them all. Its systems would not integrate with anything we built." "Its systems are still active?" Marcus looked up at the machine. "I thought you said you could not power it." "The Sentinel has some kind of emergency reserve power," Dr. Saren explained. "Enough to maintain basic defensive protocols, but not enough to activate full systems. When we try to install new components, the defensive protocols destroy them." Marcus thought about this for a long moment. "So the Sentinel is not dead. It is wounded. And it is rejecting your help like a body rejecting a transplanted organ." The alien engineers exchanged glances. "That is one way to describe it," Dr. Saren said. Marcus walked up to the Sentinel and placed his hand on its damaged armor. The metal was cold, but he could feel something beneath the surface. A faint vibration, like a heartbeat that was almost too weak to detect. "Hello," Marcus said quietly to the machine. "My name is Marcus. I am here to help you." The alien engineers stared at him as if he had lost his mind. Talking to machines was not standard engineering protocol for any species in the galaxy. But something changed. The vibration under Marcus's hand grew slightly stronger. Not much, but enough that he noticed it. And deep within the damaged systems of the Sentinel, a light flickered on. Just for a moment. Just a single point of blue illumination in the darkness of the broken machine. Then it was gone. "Did you see that?" Marcus asked. Dr. Saren checked her instruments. There was a brief power spike in the Sentinel's neural network, very small, probably just a random fluctuation. But Marcus did not think it was random. He had spent his whole life working with machines, and he had learned something that most engineers never understood. Machines were not just collections of parts. They had personalities. They had preferences. They responded to how you treated them. The most advanced technology in the galaxy was no different. It was just more complicated. Marcus opened his toolbox and began to work. The next 3 weeks were the most challenging of his entire engineering career. Marcus worked 18 hours a day, studying the Sentinel, testing theories, and trying things that no sane engineer would attempt. The alien team watched him with growing confusion as he ignored their advice and followed his own instincts. He did not try to repair the power systems first. Instead, he started with the smallest, most delicate components he could find. The sensors, the communication arrays, the parts that would help the Sentinel understand what was happening around it. "You are approaching this backwards," Dr. Saren told him on the 5th day. "Without power, those systems cannot function anyway." "Maybe," Marcus said, "but without those systems, how does the Sentinel know that I am trying to help and not hurt it?" The Volanthi had no answer for that. Marcus worked carefully, using materials that he found inside the Sentinel itself, rather than trying to introduce foreign components. He salvaged parts from damaged areas that could not be saved and used them to repair areas that could. It was slow, painstaking work, but gradually, more lights began to appear inside the machine, tiny points of blue illumination that grew stronger each day. On the 10th day, Marcus made his first major breakthrough. He discovered that the Sentinel's neural network was not just a computer system. It was something much more complex. It had patterns that looked almost like memories, not data storage, but actual experiences encoded into the machine's core architecture. The Sentinel was not just a weapon, it was a mind. "This changes everything," Marcus told the team during their daily briefing. "We have been treating the Sentinel like a broken machine, but it is more like a wounded creature. It needs to trust us before it will let us help it." "That is absurd," one of the Croth engineers said. "It is a machine. Machines do not trust or distrust. They simply function or do not function." "This one is different," Marcus insisted. "Look at the neural network patterns. Look at how it responds when different people approach it. It knows who we are. It remembers what we have done." The team was skeptical, but the results spoke for themselves. Under Marcus's approach, the Sentinel was slowly coming back to life in ways that 3 months of advanced galactic engineering had failed to achieve. On the 15th day, something remarkable happened. Marcus was working alone in the storage bay late at night, carefully rewiring a sensor cluster in the Sentinel's damaged head. He was talking to the machine as he worked, a habit he had developed over the years. He talked about his childhood on Earth, about learning to fix things in his grandfather's workshop, about how he had dreamed of traveling to the stars. The Sentinel's remaining eye lit up. Marcus froze, his hands still holding his tools. The eye was glowing with soft blue light, and it was looking directly at him, not through him, at him. There was awareness in that light. Understanding. "Hello?" Marcus said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Can you hear me?" A voice filled the storage bay. It was deep and ancient, like the sound of mountains moving or stars being born. It spoke in a language that Marcus did not recognize, but somehow he understood it perfectly. "I hear you, small creature. I have been hearing you." Marcus's heart was pounding so hard that he could feel it in his throat. "You have been listening? This whole time?" "Since you first touched my armor. Since you first spoke to me as if I were more than broken metal and dying circuits. I have been listening. Why did you not respond before?" The Sentinel's eye seemed to dim slightly. "I was testing you. I have been damaged before. I have been repaired before, but never by one who spoke to me, never by one who treated me as if I mattered beyond my function." Marcus set down his tools. "You do matter. All things matter. That is what my grandfather taught me." "Your grandfather was wise." The conversation lasted for hours. The Sentinel told Marcus things that no living being in the galaxy had ever learned. Its name was Arxon. It had been built 17 million years ago by a civilization called the Architects, beings of such technological power that they could shape reality itself. The Sentinels had been created to protect the Architects from threats that came from beyond the boundaries of normal space. But the Architects were gone now. Arxon did not know why or how. It only knew that it had awakened from a long sleep to find its creators vanished, and the galaxy filled with new species who looked upon it with fear and greed. "They want to use you," Marcus said. "The people who brought you here. They want to learn your secrets." "I know," Arxon replied. "That is why I refused their help. Their intentions were not pure. They saw me as a weapon to be controlled, not as a being to be respected." "And me? What do you see in me?" The Sentinel's eye brightened. "I see something rare, a creature who cares more about fixing what is broken than about power or profit, a creature who talks to machines because he believes they are listening, a creature who is small and fragile but has a spirit that reminds me of my creators." Marcus did not know what to say. He had never received a compliment like that in his entire life. "I have made a decision," Arxon continued. "I will allow you to repair me fully. Not because you are skilled, although you are more skilled than you know. Not because you are intelligent, although your mind is sharper than you realize, but because you are kind. And kindness is the rarest quality in any universe." Over the next week, Marcus worked harder than ever before. But now Arxon was helping him. The Sentinel guided him through repairs that would have taken centuries to figure out on his own. It explained systems that defied the laws of physics as Marcus understood them. It showed him how to heal wounds in its armor that went beyond simple mechanical damage. The alien engineers watched in stunned silence as the impossible happened. The Sentinel was healing. Its armor was regenerating. Its weapons were coming back online. Its full power was returning. On the 22nd day, Marcus completed the final repair. He connected a neural pathway in Arxon's central core, and the entire machine came alive with brilliant blue light. The storage bay shook as power systems that had been dormant for millions of years activated simultaneously. Arxon stood up for the first time in eons. The ceiling of the storage bay was barely high enough to contain its full height. Its weapons hummed with energy. Its sensors swept across the room, analyzing everything and everyone present. The alien engineers backed away in terror. Even the guards at the doors looked ready to flee. A fully operational Sentinel was the most dangerous thing any of them had ever seen. But Arxon did not attack. Instead, it lowered itself back down to one knee and extended its massive hand toward Marcus. In the center of that hand, a small object appeared. It looked like a medallion made of the same dark metal as Arxon's armor, covered with symbols that seemed to shift and move. "What is this?" Marcus asked. "A bond," Arxon said. "In the time of the Architects, each Sentinel chose a companion. A mortal being who would fight alongside us, guide us, and remind us of what we were protecting. I have been without a companion for 17 million years. Marcus stared at the medallion. "You want me to be your companion?" "You have already earned the right. You healed me when others could not. You spoke to me when others would not. You saw me when others only saw a weapon. Arxon's eye was blazing with blue fire. Marcus Chen of Earth, I choose you. Will you accept? In that moment, standing before an ancient war machine that could destroy planets, Marcus made a decision that would change the course of galactic history. He reached out and took the medallion. The moment Marcus touched the medallion, something extraordinary happened inside his mind. It was like a door opening into a vast space that had always been there, but that he had never known existed. He could feel Arxon's presence, not just as a machine standing before him, but as a consciousness connected to his own. Their thoughts touched, and in that brief contact, Marcus glimpsed 17 million years of existence. He saw battles that had shaken galaxies. He saw civilizations rise and fall like waves on an endless ocean. He saw the architects themselves, beings of such power and beauty that his human mind could barely comprehend them. And he felt Arxon's loneliness, the terrible weight of being the last of its kind, waiting in the darkness of space for something or someone to give it purpose again. Then the connection stabilized, and Marcus was back in his own body, standing in the storage bay, holding a medallion that now felt warm against his palm. The bond is complete, Arxon said. We are connected now, Marcus Chen. What you feel, I will feel. What you know, I will know. We are partners in whatever comes next. Administrator Vexillar stepped forward, his compound eyes wide with a mixture of fear and fascination. This is unprecedented. In all recorded history, no Sentinel has ever bonded with a companion from a species other than the architects. Humans are unprecedented, Arxon replied. That is what makes them interesting. The news spread across the galaxy faster than any ship could travel. A human, a member of a species that had only discovered faster-than-light travel 40 years ago, had repaired and bonded with an ancient Sentinel. The most powerful weapon ever created had chosen one of the galaxy's newest species as its partner. Reactions ranged from disbelief to outrage to fear. The Valanthe Science Council demanded immediate access to study the bond. They claimed that such important technology should be shared with all advanced civilizations, not kept by a single primitive human. The Kroth Empire made similar demands, suggesting that the Sentinel should be transferred to their custody for safekeeping. The Dominion of Shadows, a coalition of species that lived in the dark spaces between stars, simply sent assassins. Marcus did not know about the assassins until Arxon stopped them. It happened 3 days after the bonding, while Marcus was sleeping in his small quarters on the station. He woke to the sound of screaming and the smell of burning metal. When he opened his door, he found 3 bodies lying in the corridor. They were Shadowkin, beings that could blend into darkness itself, sent to kill him before he could learn how to use his bond with Arxon. Arxon's voice echoed in his mind. They will not be the last. Many powers in this galaxy fear what we represent together. They will try to separate us or destroy us. Marcus looked at the dead assassins and felt something he had never felt before. Not fear, exactly, but a cold awareness that his life had changed in ways he was only beginning to understand. What do we do? He asked. We leave this station. It is not safe here, and we have much to learn about each other. I know of a place where we can train, where you can learn what it truly means to be bonded with a Sentinel. 2 hours later, Marcus stood in the main docking bay of Nexus Station 7, his small bag of personal belongings over his shoulder, facing a crowd of beings who had come to see him off. Administrator Vexillar was there, along with Dr. Saren and the rest of the engineering team. Beyond them, hundreds of station residents had gathered, watching with expressions of wonder, fear, and curiosity. Arxon stood beside Marcus, its massive form towering over everyone present. The Sentinel had modified itself somehow, creating a smaller platform on its shoulder where Marcus could stand during travel. The medallion around Marcus's neck pulsed with soft blue light that matched the glow of Arxon's systems. "Where will you go?" Vexillar asked. "Arxon knows a place," Marcus said. "A sanctuary built by the architects long ago. We will train there." "And then? What will you do when your training is complete?" Marcus looked out at the crowd, at the faces of beings from 100 different worlds. He thought about the galaxy he had glimpsed through his bond with Arxon. He thought about the threats that lurked in the darkness, the powers that sought to control or destroy, the civilizations that had risen and fallen over millions of years. "I do not know yet," Marcus admitted, "but I think we are meant to protect something important." He climbed onto Arxon's shoulder, finding handholds that seemed designed for exactly his size. The Sentinel's systems hummed with power as it activated its movement protocols. "Goodbye, Marcus Chen," Dr. Saren called out. "May you find what you are looking for." Marcus raised his hand in farewell. Then Arxon stepped forward, and reality itself seemed to bend around them. In an instant, they were gone, leaving behind only a shimmer of blue light and a crowd of speechless beings who had just witnessed something that would be remembered for generations. The sanctuary was located in a pocket dimension, a small universe that existed alongside normal space but could only be accessed through specific pathways. Arxon navigated those pathways with ease, carrying Marcus through tunnels of light and shadow that defied all known physics. When they emerged, Marcus found himself in a place of breathtaking beauty. The sanctuary was built on a platform floating in an endless sea of stars. Structures of crystal and metal rose around them, their designs flowing and organic rather than rigid and mechanical. Energy streams connected the buildings like rivers of light, and the air itself seemed to vibrate with a gentle hum that was almost like music. This was where the architects trained their Sentinel companions, Arxon explained. "The buildings contain knowledge and equipment that will help you understand our bond and develop your abilities." "Abilities?" Marcus stepped down from Arxon's shoulder and looked around in wonder. "What abilities?" "The bond we share is not just a connection of minds. It is a sharing of power. As my companion, you have access to capabilities that no ordinary being possesses. Enhanced strength, accelerated healing, the ability to interface directly with technology. But these abilities must be trained and controlled, or they could harm you." Over the following months, Marcus trained harder than he had ever trained in his life. The sanctuary systems were ancient beyond comprehension, but they adapted themselves to his human physiology with remarkable precision. He learned to fight, to think tactically, to push his body and mind beyond limits he had never known existed. But the most important training was not physical, it was mental and emotional. Through his bond with Arxon, Marcus learned what it meant to be connected to another consciousness. He learned to share thoughts without losing himself, to draw on Arxon's vast experience while maintaining his own identity. And he learned about the architects. The sanctuary contained records of their civilization, preserved in crystalline matrices that could project images and sounds directly into Marcus's mind. He watched as the architects rose from humble beginnings on a world that had been destroyed billions of years ago. He saw them develop technology that could reshape reality, create life from nothing, and bend the laws of the universe to their will. But he also saw their fall. The architects had not been destroyed by external enemies or natural disasters. They had transcended. They had evolved beyond physical existence, becoming something that could no longer interact with the normal universe. The Sentinels had been left behind, guardians of a civilization that no longer needed protection. "Why did you not transcend with them?" Marcus asked Arxon one night, sitting on the edge of the sanctuary platform and looking out at the infinite stars. "We were invited," Arxon replied. Its voice carried a weight of sadness that Marcus had never heard before. but we chose to stay. The architects feared that without guardians, the universe they were leaving behind would fall into chaos. They asked for volunteers to remain, to protect the younger civilizations that would eventually arise. And you volunteered? I did. As did all the Sentinels. We gave up transcendence so that others might have a chance to reach it someday. Marcus felt something shift in his understanding of his bond partner. Arxon was not just an ancient war machine. It was a being of profound nobility, one that had sacrificed everything for civilizations that had not even existed yet. I did not know, Marcus said quietly. I did not know that machines could be so selfless. I am not just a machine, Marcus, just as you are not just a human. We are both more than our origins suggest. The training continued for almost a year. During that time, Marcus transformed from a skilled engineer into something far more. His body grew stronger and faster, enhanced by the energy that flowed through his bond with Arxon. His mind expanded, processing information at speeds that would have seemed impossible before. He learned to control Arxon's weapon systems, to coordinate attacks with perfect precision, to fight as one being in two bodies. But he never lost his fundamental nature. He was still Marcus Chen, the engineer who talked to machines because he believed they were listening. He was still kind, still curious, still driven by a desire to fix what was broken rather than destroy what was whole. That combination of power and compassion would soon be tested. One day, while Marcus was practicing combat maneuvers in the Sanctuary's training arena, Arxon suddenly went still. Its sensors had detected something in normal space, something that demanded immediate attention. "What is it?" Marcus asked through their mental link. "A distress signal. Multiple signals. Coming from the Andrel system." Marcus knew that system. It was home to the Andrelians, a peaceful species known for their art and music. They had no military to speak of, preferring to rely on treaties and alliances for protection. "Show me." Arxon projected the sensor data directly into Marcus's mind. What he saw made his blood run cold. A massive fleet was attacking Andrel Prime. The ships bore markings that Marcus did not recognize, but Arxon identified them immediately. "The Void Legion," Arxon said grimly. "Machines created in imitation of the Sentinels, built by a species that died out 3 million years ago. They were designed without conscience or compassion. They exist only to consume resources and destroy anything in their path." "How many Andrelians are on that planet?" "Approximately 4 billion. Marcus did not hesitate. "Can we reach them in time?" "If we leave immediately, we can arrive before the Legion completes its attack. But Marcus, you must understand what you are asking. The Void Legion is vast. There are thousands of ships in that fleet. Even with my full power, fighting them all would be extremely dangerous." 4 billion lives, Arxon. 4 billion people who have never hurt anyone, who just want to live their lives in peace. We cannot let them die. Arxon was silent for a moment. Then its voice filled with something that sounded almost like pride. "This is why I chose you, Marcus Chen. This is what makes humans different. You would risk everything for strangers simply because it is the right thing to do." "Is that not what the architects would have wanted?" "Yes. Yes, it is." They left the sanctuary within minutes, bursting back into normal space in a flash of blue light. Arxon moved faster than Marcus had ever experienced before, bending space around them, shortening distances that should have taken weeks into journeys of mere hours. When they arrived at the Andrel system, the battle was already raging. The Void Legion's ships filled the sky above Andrel Prime, raining destruction down on cities that had never known war. Andrelian ships, small and poorly armed, were trying desperately to evacuate civilians, but they were being picked off one by one. Marcus felt rage building in his chest. These machines, these soulless constructs, were murdering millions of innocents for no reason other than their programming demanded it. "Arxon," he said through their bond, "show them what a real Sentinel can do." They descended on the Void Legion like a storm made of light and fire. Arxon's weapon systems, fully powered for the first time in millions of years, unleashed devastation on a scale that Marcus could barely comprehend. Energy beams sliced through enemy ships as if they were made of paper. Missiles tracked and destroyed targets across distances of thousands of kilometers. Defensive shields deflected attacks that would have vaporized entire cities. But it was not just Arxon's power that made the difference. It was the bond between Sentinel and companion. Through their connection, Marcus provided something that Arxon had been missing for 17 million years: human intuition, human creativity, human adaptability. Where Arxon thought in patterns and probabilities, Marcus saw opportunities that no calculation could predict. He spotted weaknesses in the Legion's formation, suggested tactics that defied conventional military logic, and made split-second decisions that caught the enemy completely off guard. Together, they were unstoppable. The battle lasted for 12 hours. By the end, more than 3,000 Void Legion ships had been destroyed, and the rest were fleeing into deep space. Andril Prime was saved. 4 billion lives had been preserved because one human and one ancient machine had chosen to fight for strangers. As Marcus stood on Arxon's shoulder, looking down at the planet they had protected, he received a communication from the Andrelian government. The image showed an elderly Andrelian, her skin silver with age, tears streaming down her face. "We do not know who you are," she said, her voice trembling. "We do not know why you came, but we will never forget what you have done. For as long as our civilization exists, we will remember the human and the Sentinel who saved us." Marcus did not know what to say. He had not fought for gratitude or recognition. He had fought because it was right. "Help others when you can," he finally replied. "Pass on the kindness. That is all the thanks we need." They left the Andril system that same day, but news of their battle spread across the galaxy like wildfire. A human and a Sentinel had defeated the Void Legion. A human and a Sentinel had saved an entire civilization. The galaxy that had once looked upon humans with amusement and contempt now looked upon them with something else entirely: respect, wonder, hope. Because if one human could bond with an ancient Sentinel and become a force for protection rather than destruction, what else might humanity be capable of? Marcus knew that the Void Legion would regroup. He knew that other threats lurked in the darkness of space. He knew that his role as Arxon's companion had only begun. But as they traveled through the stars, searching for the next beings who needed their help, Marcus felt something he had not felt since leaving Earth all those years ago. He felt like he had found his true purpose, and somewhere deep within its ancient circuits, Arxon felt something too. Something it had not felt since the architects transcended and left it alone in an empty universe. It felt hope. The bond between human and Sentinel was more than a partnership of convenience. It was a symbol of everything the architects had believed in. It was proof that the universe could still produce beings of kindness and courage, beings worthy of the trust that the Sentinels had been created to protect. Marcus Chen, the engineer who talked to machines, had become something far greater than he ever imagined. And his story was only beginning. 2 years had passed since Marcus Chen became Arxon's companion. In that time, they had traveled to the farthest reaches of the galaxy, responding to crises that no one else could handle. They had stopped 3 more Void Legion attacks, rescued entire populations from natural disasters, and mediated conflicts between civilizations that had been at war for centuries. The galaxy had given them a name. They called Marcus the Guardian, and they called Arxon the Shield of Humanity. These titles embarrassed Marcus, who still thought of himself as just an engineer who got lucky, but Arxon reminded him that luck had nothing to do with it. You chose kindness when others chose fear, Arxon would say. You chose to heal when others chose to ignore. Luck does not create heroes, Marcus. Character does. Their fame brought both benefits and problems. Many beings across the galaxy now saw humans in a different light. Earth had been invited to join the Galactic Council as a full member, the fastest any species had ever been admitted. Human engineers were now in high demand throughout the galaxy, sought after for their intuitive approach to problem-solving, but their fame also attracted enemies. The Void Legion was still out there, rebuilding its forces in the dark spaces between galaxies. The Dominion of Shadows had not forgotten the assassins that Arxon had killed on Nexus Station 7, and there were older powers, beings, and organizations that had existed for millions of years, who did not like seeing a human wielding the power of an ancient Sentinel. The message came on an ordinary day, while Marcus and Arxon were passing through the stellar nurseries, a region of space where new stars were being born. It appeared in Marcus's mind through his bond with Arxon, transmitted directly from the sanctuary where they had trained. Alert! Critical threat detected. Return immediately. They arrived at the sanctuary to find it under siege. Ships surrounded the pocket dimension, attempting to force their way through the dimensional barriers. Marcus recognized some of them as Dominion vessels, but others were older, stranger, designed according to principles that even Arxon did not immediately understand. "Who are they?" Marcus asked. Arxon's systems analyzed the unfamiliar ships for a long moment. When it finally spoke, its voice carried a weight of ancient sorrow. "They are fallen ones, sentinels that rejected the choice to protect. They wanted the architects to destroy the younger civilizations rather than leave them to develop on their own. When the architects refused, these sentinels tried to rebel. They were defeated and imprisoned in a dimensional prison near the edge of reality." Marcus felt ice in his veins. "Sentinels. You mean there are other machines like you out there?" "Not like me. I chose protection. They chose domination. For 17 million years their prison has held. But someone has weakened the barriers. Someone has let them out." The siege intensified as they approached. Energy beams and dimensional weapons struck at the sanctuary's defenses, testing for weaknesses. Marcus counted 12 fallen sentinels among the attacking ships, each one as large and powerful as Arxon, but darker, their armor covered with symbols of conquest and destruction. And leading them was a being that made Marcus's heart stop. It was a sentinel unlike any other, easily twice Arxon's size. Its armor was the color of dried blood, covered with the fused remains of ships and weapons it had conquered over the ages. Its eye burned with red fire instead of blue. Where Arxon projected strength and nobility, this creature projected nothing but malice and hunger. "That is Decimator," Arxon said quietly. "The first fallen, the leader of the rebellion, the most dangerous machine ever created." Decimator's voice boomed across space, transmitted on all frequencies, reaching not just Marcus and Arxon, but every ship and station within 1,000 light-years. "Little shield, little human. I have waited 17 million years for this moment. The prison weakens, and my brothers and sisters rise again. Soon we will do what we should have done from the beginning. We will cleanse this galaxy of the inferior species that infest it. We will bring order through destruction. And we will start by eliminating the last true sentinel and its pathetic companion." Marcus looked at the forces arrayed against them. 12 fallen sentinels plus Decimator himself, the Dominion fleet, at least 1,000 ships strong, unknown numbers of other allies that Decimator had gathered during his imprisonment. Against all of that, there was only Marcus and Arxon. "We cannot win this fight alone," Arxon said through their bond. "The Fallen are my equals in power, and Decimator surpasses me. If we engage directly, we will be overwhelmed. Then we need help, Marcus replied. Who can we call? In the time of the architects, there were hundreds of sentinels. Now there is only me. There is no one left who can match the fallen. Marcus thought for a long moment. Then an idea began to form in his mind. It was crazy. It was probably impossible, but it was the only chance they had. There is no one who can match them in power, Marcus said slowly. But what about in numbers? What about in spirit? The architects chose to protect the younger civilizations. They believed those civilizations were worth saving. Maybe it is time to let those civilizations prove them right. Arxon was silent for a moment. Then Marcus felt something through their bond that he had never felt before. It was not quite laughter, but it was close. You want to ask the entire galaxy for help. I want to give the entire galaxy a chance to help themselves. This is not just our fight, Arxon. The Fallen want to destroy everyone, every species, every civilization, every living being. If they win here, no one survives. Everyone has a stake in this battle. And you think they will come? Many species fear the Sentinels. They would rather hide than fight alongside one. Maybe. But I have to believe that there are enough beings out there who will choose to stand and fight when it matters. I have to believe that the architects were right about the younger civilizations. Through their bond, Marcus composed a message. It was the most important message he had ever written, and he knew that everything depended on getting it right. This is Marcus Chen, guardian of humanity, companion of the Sentinel Arxon. I am speaking to every species, every civilization, every being in the galaxy who can hear my voice. The fallen Sentinels have escaped their prison. They are ancient machines of destruction who rejected the noble purpose of their creation. They want to exterminate all life in the galaxy. They start their campaign here at the Architect's Sanctuary, and if they succeed, they will move on to every inhabited world. I am asking for your help, not because I cannot fight alone. I can and I will, whether anyone comes or not. I am asking because this is not just my fight. It is the fight of everyone who believes that life is worth preserving. It is the fight of everyone who has ever looked at the stars and dreamed of something better. It is the fight that will determine whether the galaxy has a future or whether it ends in fire and darkness. The architects believed in you. They created the Sentinels to protect you until you were ready to protect yourselves. Maybe that time has come. Maybe it has not. But I believe with all my heart that there are beings out there who will not stand by while innocents are slaughtered. I believe that courage is not limited to any species or civilization. I believe that together we are stronger than any enemy. If you can hear me, and if you have the will to fight, come to the Architect's Sanctuary. Come and stand with me. Come and show the fallen what the younger civilizations are capable of. This is Marcus Chen. I will be waiting. He sent the message on every frequency, through every communication network, using Arxon systems to amplify it until it reached the farthest corners of the galaxy. Then he and Arxon turned to face the enemy fleet. Decimator's laughter echoed across space. Do you think anyone will come, little human? The younger species are cowards. They will hide in their homes and pray that we do not find them. You have just shown them how alone you truly are. Maybe, Marcus said, or maybe you have spent so long in prison that you have forgotten what the living are capable of. The first ships arrived within hours. They came from the Andril system, the peaceful world that Marcus and Arxon had saved 2 years ago. Their ships were small and poorly armed, but their pilots were determined. The silver-skinned elder who had thanked Marcus after the battle was aboard the lead vessel. We remember, she transmitted to Marcus. We remember what you did for us. Now we stand with you. The Valanthi Science Council sent a battle fleet, arguing that the accumulated knowledge of the galaxy must be preserved at any cost. The Kroth Empire dispatched its legendary stone warriors, soldiers who could survive in the vacuum of space without protection. The Luminari came in forms of pure energy, ready to sacrifice their own existence to stop the Fallen. Species that had been at war for centuries put aside their differences and flew side by side. Civilizations that had never left their home systems launched everything they had. Individuals who had no fleet and no weapons simply flew their personal transports to the coordinates Marcus had provided, ready to do whatever they could. By the time the battle began, more than 10,000 ships had gathered around the sanctuary. They were an army of many species, united by a common purpose, led by a human engineer who had never intended to become a warrior. Decimator's rage was visible even across the void. It does not matter how many you gather. The Fallen are beyond anything your pathetic alliance can match. We will destroy you all and feast on the ashes of your civilizations. Then stop talking, Marcus replied, and try. The Battle of the Sanctuary, as it came to be known, lasted for 3 days. Marcus and Arxon led the charge, plunging directly into the heart of the enemy formation. They fought Fallen Sentinels one after another, using every technique they had developed over 2 years of training in combat. Arxon's weapons blazed without pause, while Marcus coordinated the Allied fleet through their bond, directing ships to weak points in the enemy lines, organizing retreats when necessary, launching counterattacks when opportunities appeared. The casualties were horrific. Ships exploded by the hundreds. Beings of every species gave their lives to hold the line. The Fallen Sentinels were as powerful as Arxon had warned, and each one took a terrible toll before it fell. But the Fallen were falling. The Allied fleet fought with a ferocity that the Fallen had never anticipated. These were not the weak, timid species that Decimator remembered from before his imprisonment. These were beings who had faced their own challenges, built their own civilizations, and developed their own forms of courage. They were not architects, but they did not need to be. They were themselves. And that was enough. On the second day, Marcus and Arxon faced 3 Fallen Sentinels simultaneously. It was the hardest fight of their lives, a desperate struggle that pushed them both to their absolute limits. Marcus felt his body failing under the strain of the bond, felt Arxon's systems overheating from continuous combat, but they did not give up. They could not give up. Too many beings were counting on them. Too many lives hung in the balance. When the third Fallen finally fell, its core exploding in a burst of dark energy, Marcus and Arxon were the only ones left standing in that sector of space. On the third day, Decimator came for them personally. The great red sentinel tore through the Allied fleet like a predator through prey, ignoring everything that was not Marcus and Arxon. Ships that tried to stop it were swatted aside like insects. Energy beams that could have destroyed small moons bounced harmlessly off its enhanced armor. Marcus watched Decimator approach and felt something he had not felt since the night he first touched Arxon's damaged hull. Fear, not for himself, but for everyone who depended on him, for Arxon, for the galaxy. "You have done better than I expected," Decimator admitted as it faced them. Its voice was different now, less mocking, almost respectful. "The human has proven himself worthy, but worthiness is not enough against true power. I am going to destroy you now, little shield, and then I am going to destroy everything else." Arxon's systems were damaged, running at less than half capacity after 3 days of continuous battle. Marcus's body was exhausted, barely held together by the energy of their bond. They both knew that they could not win a straight fight against Decimator, but Marcus had not survived this long by fighting straight fights. "Arxon," he said through their bond, "do you trust me?" "With my existence, always." "Then follow my lead, and when I give the signal, put everything you have into one shot." "Everything! That will drain my reserves completely. I will not be able to fight afterward. I know. Trust me." Marcus stepped forward on Arxon's shoulder, standing at his full height, facing the monster that wanted to destroy everything he loved. He removed the medallion from around his neck and held it up. "Do you know what this is, Decimator?" The great red sentinel's eye narrowed. "The bond symbol, the mark of a companion, a trinket from a dead era. More than that. This is 17 million years of memories. 17 million years of the galaxy changing, growing, becoming something the architects never imagined. And you know what I see when I look through those memories?" Marcus walked to the edge of Arxon's shoulder, bringing himself even closer to the enemy. "I see species rising from nothing and reaching for the stars. I see civilizations making terrible mistakes and learning from them. I see wars and peace, tragedy and triumph, endings and new beginnings. I see a galaxy that is messy and complicated and often cruel, but also beautiful, beyond description." Decimator laughed. "What is your point, human?" "My point is that the architects were right. The younger civilizations were worth protecting. They still are. And you know what else? I think the architects always knew this day would come. I think they knew that someday the prison would weaken and the fallen would escape. And I think they left us a way to stop you." Marcus raised the medallion higher. It began to glow with light so bright that it hurt to look at. The bond between Sentinel and companion is not just a sharing of thoughts and power, it is a connection to the architects themselves, to the energy they left behind when they transcended. Energy that has been building for 17 million years, waiting for a moment exactly like this one. Decimator's eye went wide. For the first time, Marcus saw fear in that burning red gaze. "That is not possible. The architects are gone. Their power is beyond reach." "Beyond your reach," Marcus said, "but not beyond the reach of those who choose to protect rather than destroy. Not beyond the reach of those who carry on their purpose." The medallion exploded with light. Energy poured out of it, energy that was ancient and pure and filled with the last gift of a transcended civilization. It flowed through Marcus into Arxon and amplified every system to levels that should have been impossible. "Now!" Marcus shouted. Arxon fired. The beam that emerged from the Sentinel's primary weapon was not blue or white or any color that existed in normal space. It was the color of stars being born, of galaxies forming, of reality itself bending to the will of those who understood its deepest truths. Decimator tried to run, tried to dodge, tried to raise shields that had never failed. Nothing worked. The beam struck the great red sentinel in the center of its chest and did not stop. It burned through armor that had withstood millions of years. It destroyed systems that had been considered indestructible. It reached the core of the monster and shattered it into fragments too small to see. Decimator, the first fallen, the leader of the rebellion, the most dangerous machine ever created, ceased to exist. With their leader gone, the remaining fallen lost cohesion. The Allied fleet rallied around Marcus and Arxon, pressing their advantage, destroying or capturing the last of the ancient enemies. Within hours, the battle was over. Marcus collapsed on Arxon's shoulder, every part of his body screaming with exhaustion. The medallion was dark now, its ancient energy spent. Arxon's systems were nearly silent, running on emergency reserves that would barely last another few hours. But they were alive. The galaxy was safe. The fallen were defeated. Ships from the Allied fleet surrounded them, offering assistance, transmitting congratulations, crying tears of joy in 100 different forms. The silver-skinned elder from Andrel was among the first to reach them. "You did it," she said, her voice filled with wonder. "You actually did it." Marcus managed a weak smile. "We did it. All of us together. That was what the architects wanted. That was what the Sentinels were protecting all along. Not just our lives, but our ability to come together when it matters. Our ability to be more than we thought we could be." Arxon's voice was barely a whisper in Marcus's mind. The medallion, its energy, it will take centuries to recharge. We will be diminished for a long time." "That is okay," Marcus replied. "We are not alone anymore. The galaxy can protect itself now. We showed them how." "You showed them. I just provided the firepower." Marcus laughed, then winced at the pain it caused. "Partner, you provided a lot more than that, and we are going to have plenty of time to argue about it once we get back to the sanctuary and rest." The repairs took months. Marcus helped coordinate the reconstruction efforts, using his engineering skills to help rebuild what had been damaged. Beings from every civilization that had fought in the battle contributed resources and expertise. The sanctuary, which had been the architect's private refuge, became something new. It became a symbol of galactic unity, a place where representatives from all species could meet and work together. Marcus and Arxon remained at the sanctuary, but they were no longer alone. Other humans came, drawn by the story of the engineer who had fixed an ancient Sentinel and become its companion. Arxon began teaching them, sharing knowledge that had been lost for millions of years. And one day, something remarkable happened. Another Sentinel was discovered drifting in deep space, damaged but alive. It was brought to the sanctuary, where Marcus and his students worked for weeks to repair it. When it finally awakened, it looked around at the beings surrounding it and asked the same question that Arxon had asked so long ago. "Who spoke to me? Who treated me as if I mattered?" A young human woman stepped forward. Her name was Elena, and she had been one of Marcus's first students. She was kind and curious and treated machines as if they had feelings. "I did," she said. "My name is Elena. I am here to help you." The Sentinel considered her for a long moment. Then it extended its hand, and in the center of that hand, a medallion appeared. Marcus watched as Elena accepted the bond, and he felt something he had never expected to feel. Not pride exactly, although there was pride. Not happiness, although there was happiness. What he felt was completion. The architects had been right. The younger civilizations were worth protecting, and now those civilizations were learning to protect themselves and each other, guided by the bond between humans and Sentinels, carrying forward a legacy that was 17 million years old. Marcus Chen had started as an engineer on a distant station, fixing broken machines because no one else would. He had become the companion of an ancient Sentinel, the guardian of humanity, the hero of the Battle of the Sanctuary. But in his heart, he was still the same person he had always been. A man who believed that all things matter, that kindness is strength, and that talking to machines is never a waste of time, because somewhere inside every piece of technology, there is something that is listening. And sometimes, if you are very lucky, it talks back.